There we go. Of all the things I forgot to do in setting up my stream, I forgot to cycle my camera and make sure that it would power on for the show. Alright, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name's Andrew Welsh. I do tabletop game design. This is kind of my hobby slash passion project, the Underkeeper tabletop role-playing game. It's a D&D like. I started working and developing this game in January 2023 after the whole OGL scandal situation there, and I've been working on it ever since. And so I've been recently just doing some live streams to discuss the development process and to take information from some of my older documents, my older game design documents, my older reference material, and to bring them up to current speed, up to current day, fix some of the design decisions that are no longer relevant, such as like critical hits aren't a thing as they once were. And so that's what a lot of these past streams have been. You can find the full playlist of different streams over on YouTube, and then I stream. I try and stream most days on both YouTube and Twitch here. So yeah, that's kind of the short story of it right now. But today I've been working over the past couple of days, since you've probably noticed that I wasn't streaming for that, because the wizard class is one of the kind of core archetypal fantasy classes, and so I wanted to make sure that like I got things right. I did due diligence in making sure that my presentation of said classes were I mean, it's a good way to put a good foot forward, I suppose, is the way to phrase that. Just because if you're interested in fantasy RPGs, you want to see what the premier magic class is going to be. So like that's not to say that I have kind of set the other classes to the side, but like if I get something right, I want to make sure it's the wizard. And as it currently was, here, let me just go ahead and pull that up in my drafting documents here. There is a lot here, but one, the class document ends here at 2nd level, and so literally nothing of higher level was available. And so while there is a lot of stuff, the class itself would have been kind of a slightly more boring stream, I'd say. And so I want to make sure that that isn't the case. I want to try and like pitch some ideas of the wizard and discuss design decisions and reasons for going with them. And so I have taken that bit of a stub of a document there and expanded it to a bit bigger of a document. So without further ado, I'd say let's go ahead and jump right on in. If there are any questions that you have, please put them in chat. I'd be happy to, go back and talk about some of the other classes that we've got. Excuse me, still have a bit of that nasal congestion. I'll try and keep the belabored breathing to a minimum. But yes, without further ado, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into the wizard class. Alright, so first up is our traits box here. This is something that is standard to every class. The wizard is primarily a controller class, secondary a leader. Um, these terms coming from 4th edition D&D, where controller is all about battlefield manipulation, organization of um, player positions, organization of enemy positions, and how your special abilities can change and manipulate the world around you. Doing a bit of a it's a bit of a slant job there, but and then leader is all about kind of being what we would consider in the modern day to be the party face. So this is going to be about giving extra actions to your allies. It's going to be having the ability to talk and speak authoritatively. It is going to be about there is an element of it that is usually healing. The wizard is not primarily a healer class. If you're looking for that, that's probably going to be more of a speaker rather than a wizard. Probably get some of that with the anointed as well. But the wizard is going to be a leader class in that they are filling a bit of a party face role. Power source is going to be arcane. They are our premier arcane spellcaster. And what does that mean? Okay, so we have technically four power sources in this game. We have arcane, we have divine, we have primal, and then the hidden one after that is psionic. We do have martial as well, but that's not technically a magic power source. Arcane is I learned through study and tradition. Divine is extraplanar entities, gods, celestials, fiends, that sort of thing. And then primal is nature. So the wizard just being an arcane power source is saying, hey, they learned this all through hard work and study. Kind of like a Doctor Strange. So here, let's just go ahead and copy this over into our actual main document here. There we go. All right. So, might, agility, and spellcraft, these are our attack attributes for the game. Inside of each of these, you have nested skills that apply their bonus to your might, your agility, or your spellcraft roll. So when you have these, like you have might athletics, that means you're going to use the bonus from your athletics skill for your might rolls. For spellcraft arcana, you're going to use your arcana modifier. And then your proficiency die comes into place when you are like using a arcane focus or something like that, or a weapon that you have proficiency. And so this is just a way to, one, have standardized fronts for your core die rolls. So you're always going to be attacking with either your might, your agility, or your spellcraft. But what is giving the bonus to said rolls could be different depending on your class. So your ranger can attack using their spellcraft with nature, because they are a more nature-oriented mage. Mage being a bit of a slant term there because they are more of a martial-focused class, but I digress. The pugilist is a dexterity forward might class, and so you have more dexterity skills in the might tree. And so when you attack using your might, it's more than likely going to be one of your dexterity-based skills and using that bonus that way. Whereas the duelist is a dexterity-based agility class, where you're going to get your dexterity skills in the agility tree. Armor proficiencies, none. This is just a standard wizard thing. They are kind of on the squishier side because they have vast cosmic powers. Weapon proficiencies, I currently have them in as simple weapons. They do not get the weapon training feat, so they do not get the basically second level of proficiency that is common among martial classes. I actually skipped this section here. Hit die. We're keeping the 5e tradition of giving wizards a 1d6 hit die, hit points at first level being 6 plus con plus origin, and at higher levels 1d6 or 4 plus con modifier per wizard level after first. Very standard stuff. Alright, so our class features. This table I have not filled in from my exercise in building out the wizard off stream. There we go. But there are things here that you can see as analogous to your 5e wizards. So at first level here, we have Arcane Spellcraft. Shocker, the wizard casts spells. And it's going to be doing so primarily by the use of spell slots. I have been toying with the idea of doing like a heroic resource caster for the wizard, but that ended up feeling a little bit too samey with something like the speaker and with the anointed, and so I went back to kind of the standard 5e way of doing things here and just used spell slots, which you get them all back on a long rest, with some exceptions. We'll get to that. And then you also have an arcane recovery feature here that you get at first level that lets you recover a number of spell slots on a short rest. And so one thing that you will note is the arcane recovery number is higher. That is because one of the things that I did in designing this class outright is I reduced the number of spell slots per level. And the first thing that I expect people to say is, you've nerfed the wizard, and yes, a little bit. The wizard, as it stands in 5e here, let me go ahead and pull up the SRD 5.1 here, is on one hand a very strong class. It is very good for players who are familiar with the game, but it's a little bit hard to design for, and that's because it is rather boring. Not to say that wizards can't be boring. Look at, some of them like Caleb Widowgast in the Mighty Nine. He's a very interesting wizard, but that's because Liam O'Brien added a lot of flavor to it, and Matt Mercer is an excellent DM who allowed for Liam to be able to have the freedom to go into what all his spells look like, allowed him to have the time to, fully flesh out this character within the world. But from a core feature standpoint, at first level you get spellcasting and arcane recovery. Second level you get your arcane tradition. Third level you get nothing. Fourth level ASI feature. Fifth level nothing. Arcane tradition. And it just goes on and on until you get to 18th, 19th, and 20th, of which 18th you get spell mastery, 19th you get another ability score improvement or feat, and 20th you get your signature spells. Now, spell mastery and signature spells do translate over to my game, but the point stands here that you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 features for your core class. And on one hand, that makes some sense for the wizard, because the wizard is all about gaining spells. They're all about learning new magics, and so whenever you hit a level you get 2 new spells for levels that you can cast, but those 2 new spells are functionally your class features, and it allows the wizard to be very customizable, but the wizard itself has very little flavor innately. And so I want to fix that, and I think a core way to fix that, to give the wizard more flavor, to give it more options, is to break down and work away from exclusively spellcasting. So you will see some of these numbers are similar to what exist in my Underkeeper RPG, but you might get your spell slots a little bit slower. You might get a couple fewer, but that's because you're going to be getting other features that will help to enhance your spellcraft, that will help to give you more flavor as a wizard, more narrative things to do, etc. If we actually can jump over to the SRD 5.2.1, we can see how Wizards of the Coast kind of tried to fix or enhance their wizard as well. But the thing is, it's mostly the same sort of thing. You've got spellcasting, you've got Ritual Adept, which, if I remember correctly, is basically a continuation of spellcasting. It's just ritual casting. It's furthering what you can do there. You have Arcane Recovery, that got brought forward. Scholar, I don't remember exactly what that is, but oh look, you just get extra skills. I mean, don't get me wrong, extra skills are nice, but this is not a hard-hitting class feature that is going to shape your character's identity necessarily. And it's coming at a level where hard-hitting, character-defining things can be made. Like what is your character's origin? Like, you're making that up over the first 3 levels of D&D. So then we have your wizard subclass up to level 3 to be standardized amongst D&D 24 sorts of things. Give me one quick second here. Okay. And then 4th level, it's another ability score improvement. Yeah, once again, this is standardized to D&D 20. 5th level, memorize spell. Let's go ahead and just take a quick look. Oh, I went way too far. As to what that entails. Here goes. Okay, memorize spell. Whenever you finish a short rest, you can study your spell book and replace one of the level 1 wizard spells you have prepared for another level 1 spell. So it's just letting you swap more spells out. Which, once again, is good, but it's not flavorful. It's not it's not showing the wizard doing something that is inherently wizardly. It's, I sit beneath a tree and like read my book, which to some people that is the wizard. And I want to play a game with you, but at the same time, I want a wizard that can do more for the people who want to do more. Subclass feature, absolutely nothing. Ability score improvement, absolutely nothing. Subclass feature, absolutely nothing. Ability score improvement, absolutely nothing. Subclass feature, absolutely nothing. Ability score improvement, absolutely nothing. Spell mastery, brought forward from 2014. Epic boon, which is a higher level ability score improvement / feat, and then signature spells brought forward. So it's still, like, don't get me wrong, I think that this is better. You get more things, you get more options, but it is also very much the same. And take that with a grain of salt, because like, here is another wizard from another game that I do quite like, but it's completely different, and so you'll see maybe some of the ideas brought forward into mine, but it's not the same. Here is the Elementalist from Draw Steel. This is on Steel Compendium because the rules are open, but the art isn't. So first level features, you have element specialization. So this is uh, fundamentally your subclass. So you choose your different elements here: air, earth, fire, green, rot, void, and water. Only 4 of them are in the core book, so that's the only ones that are here. But automatically, it's much more flavorful. Just by core necessity, choosing an element is inherently more flavorful. Are you an air mage? Are you an earth mage? Are you a fire mage? Are you a void mage? Like, things like that bring a level of identity to a wizard class that 5e chooses not to do, and it genuinely frustrates me that that is how it is. I mean, I was listening to some of the older videos by Terran Pounds or Indestructo Boy, and he likes to go and talk about like giving things flavor, giving like core identities and things out that classes can do out of combat. Once again, these are older videos, but like they did shape my idea and understanding of this game when I was first really getting started and figuring out the core fundamentals of game design as a passion or something to be looking into. And the wizard as it currently exists in 5e is pretty blank slate in much the same way that the fighter is a blank slate class. This is the martial and spellcasting classes where the player brings basically everything to the table. The class does not hold your hand in many ways to give you inferences and core identity. It doesn't help you figure out who your character is like the warlock does. Like, think about the warlock and how many choices you make. Who is your patron? What are your oath talismans? Not oath talismans, that's a my game thing. But what is your pact boon? What does you basically always choose your Eldritch Blast, but then you get to tweak it with elemental invocations. What does that look like? What does that change about your spell? What does that say about your character? The wizard, okay, what first spells do you take? Do you take shield and magic missile? Okay, what does your shield look like? Is it the Doctor Strange? I mean, sure, you can answer these questions. You can do the Caleb Widowgast. I pull the guano out from my component pouch, and then, spell circles, fire begins erupting around me as I send a tiny mote forward onto the pirate ship, and it explodes, and you watch as people begin to char and burn, and I begin to have a panic attack. Liam O'Brien is wonderful. Genuinely one of my favorite players to watch in any campaign he's a part of. But that all comes from Liam O'Brien. That does not come from the wizard class. When you are playing a wizard, you are choosing options. You are not figuring out who your character is in the grand scheme of things. And so that is something that I do want to accommodate. And honestly, I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of frustrating that people like me have to do this, but at the same time, I'm honored that that Wizards of the Coast has made it easy for me to make a better wizard. I could go into the talent here, which is another MCDM class from Draw Steel, but once again, it's a similar thing where you're choosing all of your information early on. It's flavorful. It's just good. It's very good. And I want a wizard that is more like that. than a 5e wizard. And so what I have here, what I'm presenting, is my attempt to make a better wizard in a game that is something in between 5e, something in between Draw Steel, something in between 4th edition, and also just a bit of the craziness that comes out of my head. And so, at first level here, our features are Arcane Spellcraft, Arcane Recovery, and Scribe Scroll. These are your core wizard things. So, you're right. I did not do the Elementalist Draw Steel. I did not just immediately go forward and say, choose your subclass at level 1. It's going to give you more flavor. Honestly, I could do that, but one of the things I do respect about 2024 D&D 5e is that it is standardized. Just having all subclasses come online at third level there is something that I wanted to bring into my game. So subclasses all come online. Second level, then you get additional features at 5th and 8th. A couple of scenarios here and there where that isn't the case, but like primarily that's the case. Then you've got your class features and your paragraph and talent features, which are your feats. And so like when it came to figuring out spell slots here, I have an entire spreadsheet. I think this is it. Yeah, I think this is that's still not it. Spell leveling, I think that's the table. Yeah, where I was working out a good way to balance so that you can still have a lot of spells, but at the same time, it's not going to be too much. Like if you have too much spells, you can't have too many other features. So if you de-incentivize the spellcrafting ability, you can add in new abilities that let you modify those spells. Something like a sorcerer's meta magic, which we're going to see a little bit of that come into play later. But you can give the wizard more. You can just give the wizard more identity. So yeah, no, this was a bit of the work that I did here, and this is not new. Like, wizards in my game have had fewer spell slots for years, but once again, I wasn't streaming it stuff back then, so you get me now. Alright, so first level, Arcane Spellcraft. This feature is the heaviest thing in my game. What do you mean by that? I mean, look here at the whatchamacallit, the sidebar here on my drafting tab. Arcane Spellcraft. You've got cantrips, spellbooks, preparing spells, casting spells, ritual casting, spellcraft focus, a sidebar, learning spells of higher levels, another sidebar, and then you get your next feature. Like, there's a lot of things that go into this, so much so that it's several pages long. This single feature will probably, when I go to format the book, take up an entire spread, and perhaps might even have to go onto another page just because of one of the big tables that we're going to go through and we're going to see. All right, so let's just dive right on into what Arcane Spellcraft is in this game, because the wizard is the master of Arcane Spellcraft. There is not going to be another Arcane Spellcrafter class quite like the wizard. Alright, Arcane Spellcraft. As a student of arcane magic, you possess a spellbook that shows the first glimmerings of your true potential. Cantrips. You know 3 cantrips of your choice from the arcane spell list. You learn additional wizard cantrips of your choice at higher levels, as shown in the cantrips known column of the wizard table. Simple, right? If you've played 5e, you know it. These cantrips are similarly lodged in your mind, so they're not actually going to be lost. You don't have to prepare cantrips. Spellbook. This is where we get into our Vancian magic sort of analog, where the spells live in the spellbook, but they also lodge themselves in your brain when you prepare them for the start of the day. Once again, this is very much analogous to the 5e wizard. It's better, though, because we have... We're going to get to it. Better, in my opinion. I should couch this. Everything should be like have a little thing here. In my opinion, when I say it's better, it's more suited to my game. It's something that fits my world. Fits the idea of the tactical, heroic, cinematic fantasy universe that I am creating within this game. If you like D&D 5e, I am not here to take D&D 5e away from you. I'm just here saying I think there's a better option, and to provide a game that might entice you into learning more about it or trying other games. Sorry, the decongestion, the congestion. All right, so spellbook. Let's talk spellbook. So, you have a spellbook containing 2 first-level wizard spells of your choice. Your spellbook is the repository of wizard spells you know, except your cantrips, which are fixed in your mind. The spells that you add to your spellbook as you gain levels reflect the arcane research you conduct on your own, as well as intellectual breakthroughs that you have about the nature of the planes. You might find other spells on your adventures. You could discover a spell recorded on a scroll in an evil wizard's chest, or in a dusty tome in an ancient library, for example. Copying a spell into the book. When you find a wizard spell, this is going to be an arcane spell, because one thing that I am fixing in this game is class spell lists do not exist. You have the arcane spell list, you have the divine spell list, and you have the primal spell list. There are a couple of spells that overlap between those lists, but primarily you are going to be choosing one spell list, and that is going to be your core spell list. Every once in a while you might have a class like the Speaker, which lets you steal a spell from another spell list, but for the most part, if it's an arcane spell, you can take it as a wizard. Actually, no. If it is an arcane spell, you can take it as a wizard. Full stop, end stop. When you find an arcane spell of first level or higher, you can add it to your spellbook if it is of a spell level you can prepare, and if you can spare the time to decipher and copy. Copying a spell into your spellbook involves reproducing the basic form of the spell, then deciphering the unique system of notation used by the wizard who wrote it. You must practice the spell until you understand the sounds or gestures required, then transcribe it into your spellbook using your own notation. Transcribing the spell takes time and resources, as shown in the initial copy column of the spellscription table. The costs represent material components you expend as you experiment with the spell to master it, as well as the fine inks and papers you need to record it. Once you have spent this time and money, you can prepare the spell just like your other spells. So, spell level, we're staying with similar to 5e, 1st through 9th level. Then we have our initial copy table. So this is, you find your spell scroll, we're going to go ahead and copy it into our spellbook. For the first 5 levels, this is linear. For every level of the spell, you add 2 hours. First level, 2 hours, 50 gold pieces. Second level, 4 hours, 100 gold pieces. It scales pretty normally. When you get to 6th level, it doesn't. It starts scaling a little bit more exponentially. So 5th level, 10 hours and 250 gold pieces. Following this formula, we would hit 12 hours and 300. But in fact, 6th level spells cost 15 hours and 350 gold pieces. And this continues going up by 5s. I actually created an entire formula in order to best map this. Let me see if I have that still open. If not, I can open it up. It's pretty easy. Yeah, it's going to be in chapter source documents. Okay. Wizard spell evaluation. This is the table I created. So, our initial copy here is just going to be your spell level times 2, and then our resources is spell level times 50 in gold pieces. And that works all the way up to 5th level, upon which 6th level is your spell level to the power of 1.5. And this is the number that I found to be generally pretty good for just for balance purposes. So, and then our gold piece cost would be our spell level starting at 1, so 6 minus 5 here, so that's what that is, times 50 gold pieces to the 1.5 power, to the power of 1.5. And so those formulas give us 15 hours and 354 gold pieces for a 6th level spell, 19 hours and 707 gold pieces for a 7th level spell, 23 hours and 1061 gold pieces for an 8th level spell, and 27 hours and 1414 gold pieces for a 9th level spell. And so what I then did was I'd ideally like to have the presentation be kind of clean to work in, ideally numbers ending in 5s and 0s, just for presentation's sake. So I went and I rounded to, I believe it would be the nearest 5 here. And so our 6th level is now 15, as opposed to 15. Our 19 turned into 20, our 23 turned into 25, and our 27 turned into 30. So 6th level plus, it just begins to be adding 5 levels. So adding 5 hours per spell level. And then for our gold piece cost, I turned our 354 into 350. I turned our 707 into 700. Our 1061 into 1050. And our 1414 into 1400. And so then that pattern becomes adding 350 to each one after the first. So once again, it does kind of end up being a bit linear, but it does increase our it does increase our cost per spell level, and that is because 5th level is kind of the cutoff for what I would consider basic magics in the game. And then once you get to 6th level and beyond, that is going to be your higher level magics. These are your things that you're going to get a limited use of. Put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. All right, so let's go ahead and scroll back to our spell description table here. So that is the math behind the initial copy line here. And then our subsequent copies is going to be just half of that. So 2 hours and 50 gold pieces turns into 1 hour and 25 gold pieces at first level, and then our 30 hours and 1400 gold pieces, at 9th level turn into 15 hours and 700 at on subsequent copies. So, replacing the book. You can copy a spell from your own spellbook into another book if you want to make a backup copy of your spellbook. This is just like copying a new spell into your spellbook, but faster and easier since you understand your own notation and already know how to cast the spell. The time and material cost to copy a known spell is shown in the subsequent copies column of the spell description table, as we just discussed. If you lose your spellbook, you can use the same procedure to transcribe the spells that you have prepared into a new spellbook. Filling out the remainder of your spellbook requires you to find new spells to do so, as normal. For this reason, many wizards keep backup spellbooks in a safe place. So you automatically can transcribe the spells that you have lodged in your mind that are prepared into your spellbook using the spell description method, but anything that you don't have backed up or prepared is lost if you lose your spellbook. This is the same as 5e, it's just stated a little different. And I believe 5e doesn't give the secondary timing for the spell description, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me. The book's appearance. This is flavor, but once again, this is flavor that already appeared in 5e. Your spellbook is a unique compilation of spells with its own decorative flourishes and margin notes. It may be a plain, functional leather volume that you received as a gift from your master, a finely bound, gilt-edged tome that you found in an ancient library, or even a loose collection of notes scrounged together after you lost your previous spellbook in a mishap. Preparing spells. This is the spells that you are going to be casting on a day-to-day basis. You prepare the list of wizard spells that are available for you to cast. To do so, choose a number of wizard spells. Hang on, I need to change this to arcane. Arcane spells that are available for you to cast. Choose a number of... it doesn't need to be wizard. Choose a number of spells from your spellbook equal to your intellect modifier. Plus your wizard level, minimum of 1 spell. The spells must be of a level for which you have spell slots. So, intellect modifier plus wizard level, that's going to be... Oh no, sorry, I have an example here on the next line. For example, if you are a 2nd level wizard, you have 3 first level and 2 second level spell slots. With an intellect... What am I doing here? With an intellect of 16, your list of prepared spells can include 5 spells of 1st or 2nd level in any combination chosen from your spellbook. If you prepare the 1st level spell Magic Missile, you can cast it using a 1st level or a 2nd level slot. Casting this spell doesn't remove it from your list of prepared spells. So once again, very much analog to 5e. While a spell is prepared, its arcane formulae are lodged within your mind and can be performed and manifested without reference to your spellbook. You can change your list of prepared spells when you complete a long rest. Preparing a new list of spells requires time spent studying your spellbook and memorizing the incantations and gestures you must make to cast the spell. At least 1 minute per spell level for each spell on your list. There we go. Once again, that mostly comes from 5e, because the preparing mechanism works very well to kind of condense what is your spellbook into something that is manageably lodged in your mind that you can act upon throughout the day. throughout the adventuring day. Sorry about that. Casting spells. The spell casting and spell slots table show how many spell slots you have to cast your prepared wizard spells of first level and higher. To cast one of these spells, let's change the word wizard here to arcane. Go. To cast one of these spells, you must expend a slot of the spell's level or higher. Some spells increase their potency when cast using a slot higher than their base level. Keep a note on that. We're going to come back to it, but spells have a heightened ability. Recovering spell slots. Wizards are continually balancing their arcane potential versus the strain of channeling the arcane weed. As a Paragon adventurer from 1st through 10th level... hang on, this is... I need to use the bathroom. I'm going to be right back. All right. I'm so sorry about that impromptu bio break there. Oh, no, hang on. There we go. All right. Ah. Casting spells. The spellcasting and spell slots table shows how many spell slots you have to cast your prepared arcane spells of first level and higher. I think we actually did nix this table. Put it onto our class features table. All right, there we go. To cast your prepared arcane spells of first level and higher. To cast one of these spells, you must expend a spell slot. A slot of the spell's level or higher. Some spells increase their potency when cast using a spell slot higher than their base level. So this is going to be our heightened feature. This is our standard upcasting. Recovering spell slots. Wizards are continually balancing their arcane potential versus the strain of channeling the arcane weave. As a Paragon adventurer from 1st through 10th level, you are naturally able to recover all expended spell slots up to 5th level when you complete a rest. When you complete a long rest. At 11th level, when you advance to the legendary tier, you can naturally recover spell slots up to 7th level by completing a long rest. For one, this is old design that I should have caught yesterday. Because it is talking about the legendary tier of classes, which are not going to be a part of the core book. So from 1st through 10th level, no, we don't even need that because that would imply that there's more. There is more, but that's going to be an expansion. You are naturally able to recover all expended spell slots up to 5th level when you complete a long rest. There we go. That is all that we need. Boom. And then we're just going to throw the rest of it into a comment here. Go. You regain all expended spell slots regardless of level when you complete an extended rest. Boom. Boom. There we go. So, remember what I had said about higher tiered magics and 1st through 5th level and 6th through 9th level? This is what I'm talking about. You're primarily going to be casting spells of 1st through 5th level. And those are going to be the ones that you get back on a long rest. Your spell slots of 6th through 9th, until you take an extended rest, you have as many castings as you have spell slots for the duration of the adventure. So that means, let's go ahead and scroll up to our table here. That means at 10th level, you have 2 6th level spell slots, 2 7th level spell slots, 1 8th level spell slot, and 1 9th level spell slot. Those do not regenerate. Those will not regenerate until you take an extended rest. This is one of the ways that I have to balance the wizard. And so it also kind of helps to negate the fallacy of wish being overpowered. Sure, wish is powerful. It's wish. You can make a wish and turn the big bad evil guy inside out if you so choose. But you're only going to be able to do that once per adventure. You can't wish again when his lieutenant takes up the mantle. midway through. It's designed to help curve that sort of play, by just giving you different. It helps to increase creativity by having bounds, and the bound of not being able to regenerate your higher level spell slots is one of those things where you're going to be thinking and trying to plan ahead and strategize when it's going to be best needed to use those higher level spell slots. And this will definitely come into play with a certain spell that you're going to get later on. And on one hand, that was kind of an accident. On the other hand, I love how it came out, so I have to take credit for it. It's so good, in my opinion. For everything. Yeah. So, recovering spells, 1st through 5th, always. 6th through 9th, extended. You get a certain number of those per adventure. Those are your higher level magics. Ritual casting. You can cast an arcane spell as a ritual if the spell has the ritual tag and you have the spell in your spellbook. You do not need to have the spell prepared. Simple stuff. So let's say that's Find Familiar. If Find Familiar is in your spellbook, you can cast it as a ritual. Just in general. You do not have to have the spell prepared. Just helps to keep things simple, and once again give wizards a bit of that utility back that is coming with having the limited number of prepared spells, but also limiting the number of spell slots that they can use. Spellcraft focus. This is where we're going to be having our biggest diversion from 5e. Don't get me wrong, 5e has a spellcraft focus thing. Let's go ahead and look at it. I know you do. Spellcraft focus. You can use an arcane focus as a spellcraft. There. Let me try that again. You can use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. That's it. And that is all. That is everything. That is everything from the 2014 SRD. Let's look at 2024 because they gotta. They kept most of the things the same. Where are you? Oh yes, spellcasting focus. You can use an arcane focus or your spellbook. Ooh, fancy. As a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. Guys, that's it. So, spellcraft focus. This is the part. This is why the arcane spellcraft feature is several pages. You can use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. When you do not have an arcane focus and attempt to cast a wizard spell, there's a chance the spell goes wild. So, one thing that you will note is there's not a wild magic sorcerer in this book. That's not an oversight. It's something that I personally think is a bit regressive in play. And let me back that up because that is a bit of a harsh statement. I personally find that wild magic sorcery is so unpredictable that whenever it happens, it basically shifts the entire narrative of a scene towards what's happening with the wild magic sorcerer. It's a really good way of just stealing the spotlight whenever something is going on. And here's the thing, it's still doing the same thing in my game. But whereas with 5e, wild magic is goofy haha fun time stuff, like, and you can like choose to have wild magic effects happen, or your GM can like say, hey, this is happening, go ahead and roll on the wild magic table. Here it's not, oh, it's just going to be a goofy little effect here and there. No. Wild magic is something that should be feared and like should be considered dangerous. A wizard without their spellcraft focus should be looked at as like someone wandering around casting spells that like has a ticking time bomb on their chest. Like, this is something that could go horribly wrong for the caster, but also for everyone else around them. Wild magic is a last-ditch effort in getting your spell off. It's a test for a wizard. Sure, you might think you're a good spellcaster. Okay, put down your spellcraft focus and prove it to me. Prove it to me by controlling the wild magic that you could cause by not honing your skill. Choose by like the way that I have thought about wild magic is, this is something that should be dramatic. Wild magic, like a wild magic surge, should be dramatic. It should draw the attention of the party because something bad is probably going to happen. I mean, granted, it's a roughly 50-50 chance of something bad actually happening, but it is, hey, this could become a problem really quickly. And so I find that wild magic being a subclass as something that your sorcerer can just kind of, hey, I'm the wild magic guy. Like, it feels antithetical to the idea of the wild magic actually being wild. Like maybe what I want is something called feral magic. Like you have your feral hogs and such in the wilderness, and those are scary, mostly because they're hogs, but the feral aspect doesn't help. Whereas wild magic, like, this is unfocused magic. This is raw arcane potential being bent to the whims of a wizard who may or may not be able to control it. Wild magic should be scary. It should have lasting effects. And so, that is why I have greatly emphasized spellcraft focuses in this game. Your arcane focus is what's preventing you from casting wild magic. Now, granted, you have a failsafe in there of, hey, I'm a wizard, I have skill. True, you are. You're good. But, like, the fact that you have and are using your spellcraft focus, it's a safety net. What happens when there is no safety net? Wizards are creatures of order and balance. They cast and channel their magics by repeating learned patterns and rituals, and when those factors are disrupted, there is the chance the spell is misperformed. In these circumstances, a wizard rolls a spellcraft check against a target number equal to 15 plus the spell's level. On a success, the spell is cast without issue. You're good. On a failure, the spell slot is expended, and instead of the desired spell effect, a random effect occurs. Roll on the Wild Magic Surge table. The effect described by the roll supplants the intended spell effect. If you roll an effect that causes a spell to be cast on you, you cannot defend against the spell's effects. Spells cast through wild magic do not require concentration. So, once again, if you're looking here and you're saying, hey, wait, what's target number? I thought you got rid of those in this game. I did. I did. They're haunting me. First, we had the Pugilist, where we kept target numbers exclusively for them. And then I was going through the Wizard here, and I'm like, I think I have to keep it here as well. Once again, you shouldn't have to use it. You should always have your focus. Always have your arcane focus. But this is a binary pass-fail. You're not going to get different gradations of success with wild magic. Either the spell is wild or it isn't. And the way to do that is target numbers. And it should be harder the higher the level of spell you try and cast. So, target numbers. So we have our standard sidebar of target numbers, mostly kept the same from the Pugilist class here. When a game master determines that the result of a player's character's actions are exclusively pass-fail, with no negotiations or degrees of success, they set a target number representing the difficulty of the task. The more difficult the task, the higher its TN. The typical target numbers table shows the most common target numbers. Same table as before. As a wizard, you use your target numbers when determining the difficulty of casting a spell without your arcane focus. You roll your core dice, like a standard ability challenge, and compare the result with the target number to determine whether or not you gain the continuing effects of the stance. That is, to determine whether or not you perform the spell you intend or cast wild magic. There we go. Once again, I copied a lot of it over from the Pugilist. That part didn't get edited, or didn't get audited. Alright, so let's talk about the Wild Magic Surge table, shall we? This is... Look, on one hand, I don't like goofy haha random magic. But on the other hand, a little of it here and there is fun. I've played a wild magic sorcerer before. It can be fun. I've seen wild magic used to great effect. It can be fun. And so I got to create my own wild magic surge table. I kept a lot of this. I kept some of the iconic bits. I also enhanced some of them. Once again, wild magic surges are for and foremost punishments. This is saying, hey, something bad is happening. So let's have some bad things happen. If you roll a 1 on your Wild Magic Surge table, a 1 or a 2, your implements ignite with spectral fire that quickly expands beyond your control. You cast Fireball at its base level, centered on yourself. You cannot defend against this. 3 or 4, your eyes turn glassy. You cast See Invisibility at its base level, targeting yourself. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to keep tally here, because it's been a while since I worked on this table here. Let's count the positive, neutral, and negative effects. Positive. Neutral. Negative. Alright, I've got mine here going. Fireball. Hey, that sure sounds like a negative effect. You explode. There we go. See Invisibility? You don't have to concentrate on it? Cool, that sounds like a positive effect. You roll a 5 or a 6. The world glazes over as an ice begins forming around you. You cast Ice Storm at its base level, centered on yourself. This is going to be a negative. On a 7 here, roll a d10. Your height changes by an amount equal to the roll. If the roll is odd, you shrink. If the roll is even, you grow. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a true polymorph or wish spell. Yeah, you're either just taller or shorter. This is a more or less a neutral effect. 9 or 10, you feel light and begin floating in the air. You cast Levitate at its base level, targeting yourself. I'm not going to say that this is positive because Levitate can be annoying, but it is definitely neutral. I can see it being a problem, but I can see it being a benefit. So, it is what it is. 11 to 12. A large demonic hand reaches across the plains and attempts to grab you. You cast Hold at its base level, targeting yourself. This is a negative. Does anyone want to object? 1 negative point there. Your eyes glow like multicolored lanterns. You cast Light, targeting yourself. I'm going to say that this is neutral. Like, sometimes light isn't useful, but, like, it's also just light. 15 to 16. The ground beneath your feet begins to leak slippery, flammable liquid. You cast Grease at its base level, centered on yourself. I'm going to say that this is a negative. You are now standing in slippery, flammable liquid. That can go badly. You can also fall prone and be covered in even more grease. Your skin turns a vibrant shade of blue. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell. Neutral, more or less. Like, once again, this is neutral. 19 through 20. An eye appears on your forehead. While this eye can see, you have advantage on any perception, wisdom challenges that rely on sight. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell. I mean, it's weird, but, like, it is a benefit. You get more perceptive. You got another eye. I'm marking that as a positive. 21 through 22. You teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can perceive. As far as I'm concerned, that's a positive. It's free movement. 23 to 24. A torrent of magical energy explodes from you. A number of creatures that you can perceive up to your spellcraft modifier within 60 feet of you are knocked prone. It's like a fireball, but like farther reaching, but also the effect is only you're knocked prone. So it's not as bad, but it's still a negative. You feel yourself grow weak to the world around you. You're vulnerable to all damage for the next minute. All damage coming at you is gonna be doubled. I don't need to tell you where this one's going, it's negative. Electricity arcs around you, shocking the creatures closest to you. A number of creatures standing near you, equal to your spellcraft modifier, take 4d12 lightning damage. So, want to mark that negative with me there? Alright. 29 to 30. Ooh, this is a long one. You create a warping, transformative shield around yourself that immediately collapses on itself. You cast Polymorph at its base level, centered on yourself. Roll a 1d10 to determine the creature you become. Is it a frog, a sheep, a pig, a wolf, or a bear? Oh, also, if you're reduced to 0 hit points while in this form, the transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a true polymorph or wish spell. Oops. So yeah, this is a negative. 31 through 32. Your tongue turns to silver. You cast tongues at its base level, targeting yourself. All things considered, that's a positive. 33 to 34. Your shadow detaches from you and arises from the ground as a shadow. Your shadow is only restored once the shadow is defeated. All things considered, this is kind of a neutral, but like, if this happens during a battle, I'm gonna mark it as a negative, because it's adding another enemy to the field. Alright, especially because shadows are pretty rough with their ability score drains. 35 to 36. You collapse as if dead. You fall unconscious for 1d4 minutes and cast Feign Death at its base level, targeting yourself. This is mostly neutral. It's going to remove you from a battle. So, like, that's bad for your teammates, undeniably, but also you're out of the battle. And there are ways to wake up from unconsciousness, but Feign Death sure makes it look like you just straight up die. So I'm gonna mark it as neutral, but like, this is riding the line here. It's more negative to your party. 37 to 38. You sprout wings and determine their appearance. For the next hour, you gain a fly speed equal to your base movement speed. This is just an all-out positive. 39 to 40. A magical item you are carrying becomes sentient. This is for your DMs. They'll have fun with it. This is neutral. It's not positive, it's not negative, but it's neutral. Oh, hey, here's another one similar to that polymorph. You turn into a potted plant until the start of your next turn. So once again, it's only 6 seconds. Nice. While a plant, you are incapacitated and have vulnerability to all damage. Uh-oh. If you're reduced to 0 hit points while in this form, the transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a true polymorph or wish spell. Uh-oh. So, I mean, it's a short time period, but for that short time period, you have you have functionally no hit points. You have, like, 1. And so, like, if an enemy throws a fireball in the area, I sure hope you like being some grass. This is a negative. 43 to 44. You jump forward in time exactly 1 minute. From the perspective of everyone else, you cease to exist until you reappear. Similar to Feign Death, I'm going to mark this as neutral. It's a bane to your party. Your party will not like this, but you're gonna be fine. All right, 45 to 46. Roll a d6. One ability score of your choice changes by a number equal to the roll. If the roll is odd, your chosen ability score is reduced by the amount, minimum of 1. If the roll is even, your ability score increases by the amount, up to your ability score maximum. This effect is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse. So this could go either way. This is one of those swinging abilities. And so I'm going to mark it as a net neutral, but this could be anywhere from you lose 3 points of an ability score to you gain 6 points. It could be very good. Honestly, talking it out here, lose 1, gain 2. Lose 3, gain 4. Lose 5, gain 6. And the average roll being a 3.5, so you're slightly more likely on the gain side. But, like, it is an even distribution, so your mileage may vary. Yeah, no, I'm going to mark it as a neutral. I've got to mark it as a neutral. Um, 47 to 48. A wave of healing washes over you and you alone. You regain 2d10 hit points. That's a positive. 49 to 50. You gain 1d4 levels of fatigue. This could kill you if you already have a couple levels of fatigue. It's a negative. Alright, so right now where we stand, just having done half of the list, we are sitting at 6 positives, we are sitting at 8 neutrals, and we are sitting at 11 negatives. And I feel like that's a pretty good distribution for what a Wild Magic Surge table should be like. So let's see what happens as we go along. 51 to 52. One of your eyes is replaced with a precious gem worth 500 gold pieces. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell, so long as the gem remains in place. This is a choice, but like, there's so many things that this could be. Does this mean you technically can then sacrifice your eye to cast Revivify? Yup. Realistically, this is money, but on the other hand, this is a hindrance to your character. So I'm going to mark it as a negative, but like, this is something that just could straight up happen. Alright, so we're marking that as negative there for me personally. 53 to 54. Your hands and feet grow sticky. You cast Spider Climb at its base level, targeting yourself. Not really a downside to this spell, it's Spider Climb. That's going to be a positive there. Here is the exact opposite of that vulnerability one. You feel yourself grow strong to the world around you. You are resistant to all damage for the next minute. Straight up positive. 57 to 58. Your body grows resilient to the natural processes. You no longer require food or drink to sustain yourself. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell. All things considered, it's a positive. Ocean mists surround you. You cast Fog Cloud at its base level, centered on yourself. Good for if you're hiding, annoying for you and everyone else who's trying to target nearby things. So I'm going to mark this as a negative, but it's really a bit of a neutral to negative. It's more along the lines of the middle of those two. 61 to 62. A revitalizing breeze blows around you. All creatures within 30 feet of you gain temporary hit points equal to your spellcraft bonus, sorry. This is a benefit. It's a small benefit, but is nice. It's a positive. Now, granted, this is all creatures, so that is including enemies. But, like, once again, spellcraft bonus. It's not that. This is not that big. Vines of arcane energy spill out around you, grasping at anything they can. You cast Entangle at its base level, centered on yourself. This is another negative. 65 to 66. The sounds of the world come alive around you. You cast Animal Understanding at its base level, targeting yourself. I'd say that this is a positive. 67 to 68. The world grows darker around you as you phase out of alignment with the material plane. You cast Invisibility at its base level, targeting yourself. This is one of the easier ones to deal with. I'm going to mark it as a neutral, just because you're becoming invisible unintended. You can really easily fix that by making an attack roll or by casting another spell. So, I'm going to mark it as a neutral, but this could be a neutral positive. Roll a d10. Your age changes by a number of years equal to the roll. If the roll is odd, you get younger. If the roll is even, you get older. This is permanent and can only be undone through a true polymorph or wish spell. Well, for one, I'm going to change that to remove curse or wish spell. I feel like that's a better option there. Okay, there we go. This is similar to the height one, but like a little bit else. I'm gonna still mark it as a neutral here, but like could mess up your character a bit, just in the nature of things. Your mind is split in two. You cast confusion at its base level, targeting yourself. Hey, this is bad. Confusion is bad. Your form begins to warp and multiply as other spectral forms of yourself surround you. You cast Mirror Image at its base level, targeting yourself. Sounds great. Magic devolves into a swirling black vortex surrounding you. You cast Anti-Magic Field at its base level, centered on yourself. This can happen at first level. This is a negative. Um, 77 to 78. You are cursed. The next time you are reduced to 0 hit points, you immediately die and are resuscitated as if by the reincarnate spell. This curse is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell. So this is more of a narrative thing, but I'm going to mark it as a negative. 1, because you die, and 2, because you can roll an ancestry that, like let's say you're a Worm's Fang and you need your Dragon's Breath. You could just lose your ability to breathe fire, to be an elf, and like not need to sleep. So I'm going to mark this as a negative. 79 to 80. You are cursed. Your mind becomes muddled to the languages of the arcane. Until the curse is removed, you can only speak in an exotic tongue. Roll 1d10 to determine the language. Abyssal, Deep Speech, Draconic, Infernal, Sylvan. While you are cursed, you gain the benefits of the Comprehend Languages spell. You can understand everyone around you, even if you couldn't beforehand. But this curse is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse spell. You can understand everyone, no one can understand you. With some exceptions, I suppose. So this is going to be a negative, but like, it's a slant negative. It's between neutral and negative. You immediately switch places with another creature you can perceive within 60 feet of you. Slightly different than the teleport option. I'm going to mark it as a neutral, just because this could help an enemy escape. This could imprison you. There's a lot of things that this could be that are problematic, but also, like, imagine if you switch places with your fighter as a wizard. Now you're on the front lines. You grow gills along your neck. You can now breathe underwater, but can no longer breathe in open air. This transformation is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse or true polymorph spell. On one hand, this isn't a problem. On the other hand, if you're not near water, you are suffocating. So this is a negative. Like, it can be adapted with time. 85 to 86. You gain a quick glimpse of the future. You cast Augury at its base level. You do not know the nature of the creature you commune with. This is a positive, but it's an ominous positive. You are cured of blights and diseases. At the end of your turn, all conditions of your choice affecting you end. Straight up positive there. You gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Another positive. 91 to 92. You are cursed. Roll a d6. If the roll is odd, you contract lycanthropy. If the roll is even, you contract vampirism. This curse is permanent and can only be undone through a remove curse, true polymorph, or wish spell. This is a negative. I don't know what else to say. This is a negative. 43 to 44. The planes converge on your presence. You cast Banishment at its base level, targeting the nearest extraplanar creature to you, including yourself, if you are extraplanar. So this could go any which way. It could. This could be a quick boss removal. This could be, oops, you're now stuck in the Feywild while the rest of your party is fighting a monster. And because wild magic does not require concentration, you cannot break concentration. You are now in the Feywild and have to figure out how to get out of there. So I'm going to put this. This could be a great annoyance. This could be a great boon. I'm going to put this as neutral, but it's going to depend wholly on the caster. This one here, during your next long rest, you lay an egg. Whatever hatches looks to you as its parent. Roll 1d10 to determine the creature you hatch. Giant spider, basilisk, hydra, harpy, rock. This could go horribly wrong, but also this could be a pet. I'm going to mark it as a neutral. Roll twice on this table and resolve both effects. That could be anything. Right now we're slightly more negative than positive, but once again I'm going to call it a neutral. And then finally for our 100, you regain all expended spell slots and missing hit. You're back to full. So our final total is 16 positive, 14 neutral, and 20 negative. So it's mostly balanced. It's completely random. I would just recommend holding on to your arcane focus. Please, dear God, hold on to your arcane focus. Learning spells of first level and higher. Each time you gain a wizard level, yeah, because we're still talking about wizards. We're not talking wild magic or anything. We're just going through the tables here, talking through everything. Each time you gain a wizard level, you can add 2 wizard spells to arcane spells of your choice to your spellbook. Each of these spells must be 5th level or lower. So once again, you're not automatically learning spells of 6th through 9th level. You have to go out and quest for those. That is the intent. You are not going to be automatically gaining higher level magics, for which you have spell slots as shown on the wizard table. On your adventures, you might find other spells that you can add to your spellbook. You can add these spells to your spellbook by spending the time and resources to copy them into your tome. And that is going to be the main here for the sidebar, learning spells of 6th level and higher. And once again, I just have a note here to write a sidebar on how to learn higher level magics. The gist is adventuring and downtime activities. In order to gain access to higher level magics, you need to go out and collect and learn from the works of previous mages, and or spend the time and effort inventing or reinventing the magics you want to cast. That's that. All right, we finally move on to our second class feature. Oh boy, it's been almost 2 hours. We're on our second wizard feature. Let's go. Arcane Recovery. You have learned to regain some of your magical energy by studying your spellbook. When you complete a short rest, you can choose expended spell slots to recover. The spell slots can have a combined level that is equal to or less than half your wizard level rounded up, and none of the spells can be 6th level or higher. For example, if you're a 4th level wizard, you can recover up to 2 spells worth of spell slots. You can recover either a 2nd level spell slot or 2 1st level spell slots. The number of times you can use your arcane recovery increases as you gain levels as a... Why does that say ranger? As a wizard, as shown in the arcane recovery uses column of the wizard table. You regain 1 expended use when you complete a long rest, and all expended uses when you complete an extended rest. When you have no uses remaining, you can spend 2 points of willpower to use this ability again. So this is your I can keep going all day during, your standard adventuring time period. All right. Scribe Scroll, another first level wizard feature here. You channel magic to inscribe your magic. I don't like that. You channel magic to inscribe one of your prepared spells upon a spell scroll for use at a later time. You scribe an arcane spell from your spell. Okay. Scribe one of your spells. Fine. There we go. You scribe an arcane spell from your spellbook onto a blank spell scroll. When you take this action, you expend a spell slot equal to the spell being copied. Scribing the spell scroll takes time and materials equal to the subsequent copies column of the spell description table for the copied spell's level. So you're basically copying from your book onto a scroll, then you can give that scroll to another wizard and they're going to do the initial copy, and then now you both have the spell. Or you could just share your book. But, that's wizards. What this does do, however, and, GMs, I'm talking to you here, what this does do is it allows your wizard to bank spells. Oh, I'm not using all of my spell slots today and I have extra money? I'm going to just start creating spell scrolls. And so then they can use those spell scrolls in either future combat encounters or they can sell them. So I'm just making this aware to you. Hey, your wizard can, bank their spell scrolls. Bank their unspent spell slots as spell scrolls for use in a future encounter. This kind of begins to mimic a heroic resource. Do with that information what you will. This can be very powerful. This can also be game breaking. But, keep a note of that. Alright. Wizard Order. When you reach 2nd level, you receive additional training into the nature of the arcane and the manipulation of the weaves of magic. Your choice of Wizard Order grants you features at 2nd level and again at 5th and 8th level. We've reached 2nd level, boys. Alright. So, our Wizard Orders here. Order of the Planeswalkers, Order of the Rune Carvers, Order of Scholarship, and Order of Thaumatophagy. We're going to get into that. So right now, a lot of this is in the comments that I have right here next to it. I haven't written up a full description here. So for one, Order of Scholarship. This is your classic 5e style wizard where you gain bonuses and banes based on your spell, circle, or school. You want to play kind of a classic abjurer? You can take bonuses to your abjuration, and that will give you banes to, I forget which other schools. This is going to actually end up pretty similar. I believe I've got a table here. This will probably be pretty similar to your channeling conventions as a speaker here, where if you have a bonus to your, once again, we're going to stick with abjuration here, like the life domain, you will have bonus to abjuration. You'll probably have a bane to illusion, or if you're a valor speaker, bonus to abjuration, bane to evocation. So something along those lines. This would go back a lot to your kind of third edition style design, where you have spell school forbiddances, where like if you mark yourself as a conjuration wizard, you can no longer take evocation spells or something along those lines. It is that, but just a little bit lighter, so that you just have, so like your effects with a different spell school are a little bit worse. So yeah, Order of Scholarship. This is going to be the wizard that you play if you want to learn a lot of spells. They're probably also going to have abilities that are all about decreasing time spent copying spells or decreasing gold and material costs when you are transcribing or scribing spell scrolls. So yeah, no, this is your, I am learning about the nature of magic, and realistically probably also the nature of monsters, and this is your I'm a student one. This is your Strixhaven wizard. Order of the Planeswalkers. Wizards who walk the known planes and evoke and abjure from the different realms of cosmic influence. High-level wizards may be able to create conjunction events. So, like, this is... You're going to get planar magics. You're going to get plane shift. You're going to get banishment. Once again, as I said here, you might be able to create conjunction events where you bridge two planes. You can create an open doorway or a rift just straight up between two worlds that is open until I haven't worked out exactly how this works, so this is just a brief introduction. Order of the Rune Carvers. Honestly, this is one that I kind of feel pretty excited about. This is the Gish Wizard archetype. Wizards who create and enchant implements with arcane runes. Through this subclass, you can build Rune Knight Wizards. This is kind of going to be the Bladesinger wizard for this game, with warded blades, shields, and armor. But also, you can create a Warder Wizard who enchants themselves with different runes as a form of arcane biomodification. If you've seen Arcane, the League of Legends show on Netflix, you know who I'm talking about. He's my favorite character. It's Victor. You can create Victor. Yeah. And then finally, if you look at the different times here, I marked note about Order of the Runecrafters at 12:34 on January 27th. Like most of these earlier ones, 12:22, 12:29, 12:34, all of that was roughly at the same time. I knew what these subclasses were going to be. Then we take a couple hour jump here to 2:13, as I was figuring out what the fourth core subclass is. And I do have an answer for you. The answer is the Order of Thaumatophagy. As a note, this is more or less a slant translation of the practice of eating magic. This is a wizard archetype where the powers that they possess are stolen from another extant being. You might be saying, hey, that sounds like a warlock. And yeah. So I had an idea for a warlock in this game. It would be another intelligence based class where it is, once again, you are stealing intelligence from a higher level being. And so, in the ideas phase of designing what a warlock in this game would be, it would probably be a little bit more striker focused, a little bit more damage focused. But at the same time, I was wrestling with the idea that we already have a patron class. It's the Anointed. That is a bit of your spellsword class. You get most of your warlock subclasses and archetypes fit into that. It's a little paladin-y, it's a little cleric-y, it's a lot warlocky. There wasn't much narrative for a straight striker warlock class. So we break down what the idea of a warlock is. It's an intelligence-focused class that is stealing arcane knowledge from an unholy source. Why can't that be a wizard? Why can't it? One of the things that I am a fan of, I quite like the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. That's not an endorsement of the guy. Dude's terrible. But dude can write. Dude has writing skills. He has talent. Lovecraft uses wizards as his mages. I believe some of them even use that word, wizard. So, okay. What if we're talking about a wizard archetype here that fills the niche of the warlock, but it has to be different than the Anointed? So, the powers that they invoke are darker, more prone to errant corruption. Does this mean they might have a slightly more frequent role on a wild magic table? Not the wild magic table, but they might have a little bit of extra funk to them, like an eldritch invocation. Their mages are more panicked, in search of relief from the being they draw power from. They're, a warlock of sorts. Here's where I kind of really started getting into the idea here. Have a sacrifice element tied to the practice of spells. A collection or consumption of souls to gain arcane prowess and potential, lest the mage themselves become the conduit for communion and consumption of the magic of their patron. This is blood magic. Ooh, this sounds cool. This is flavor for the wizard. Perhaps tie in the mystical tradition that there were forbiddances in the practice of magic. Bound versus unbound? Who knows what that means? To accept this order. If you've seen the first Doctor Strange movie, Caecilius is absolutely an order of thaumaturgy wizard. He's drawing power from the dark dimension. We don't do that here. There is a lot of fun and unique and thematic things that can be done with this. Realistically, and this is going a little bit into my... let me step back a second here and just read this line, and then I'm going to explain what that line means. Realistically, these are the mages who unravel the psionic manifest and create mind flayers, versus the cognizants who wield and manipulate psionic potential. That's gobbledygook. So let me go ahead and tell you about how the Ulithic work in my setting. That is mind flayers. It's changed because Illithid is not SRD. It's fine. Ulithic I like better. So also Mind Flayer, the phrase itself, not SRD, but like if you're a tabletop fantasy RPG, especially one created by me, you got Mind Flayers. We love Mind Flayers, right? I should be wearing my Mind Flayer sweatshirt. So Mind Flayers, canonically, I believe in both D&D sense and also in my game sense, that's the only one that matters here. They come from the future. They just naturally come from the future. So how do they get back into the past? Well, what Mind Flayers do is Mind Flayers are canonically psionic beings. And one thing that always exists as basically a solid state device, I'm probably using that phrase incorrectly here, is the psionic manifest. This is its own form of the arcane weave. So you've got this kind of fabric of the arcane reality, and then there is a grid of psionics near it. And you can have points where they touch, where they cross, where you can have some arcane spells that do a little bit of psionics and such. It's a little funky. But like those are just points where they meet. The psionic weave is something that is the same across all space and time. It is the same thing. So if you change the psionic weave at one point in the past or the future, it is the same as changing it simultaneously. So someone changing it in the past, that change will always be a part of the psionic manifest. So what Mind Flayers did is they created instructions for creating Mind Flayers, and they imprinted it upon the psionic weave. So anyone who accesses the psionic weave can correctly, incorrectly, knowingly, unknowingly create Mind Flayers. And that is how they exist across all space and time within the game. They transmitted themselves via information, and then they live and exist like parasites once a creature wisely or foolishly taps into the psionic manifest. Mind Flayers are an inevitability due to just the curious nature of mortal beings tapping into the cosmos. We will always get Mind Flayers. Mind Flayers are a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sure, they come from the future, but the only reason they come about in the first place is because some bold cognizant, my word for a scion, that's going to be this future psionic class. It's going to be an expansion thing. I'm sorry, it can't be a part of the core rulebook. It's too weird. But some cognizants, some psionographers just start messing with the psionic manifest, and they're like, hey, what's this? We start casting spells, we enter into different warp zones. We have this sort of almost Warhammer-esque thing where, hey, is the psionic manifest alive? What is this? We start drawing different things out of it. We start pulling, oh hey, we've created aberrations. The Mind Flayers are now present at that point in time, and they can, proliferate outward from that point. And so what I'm saying here is, maybe it wasn't a cognizant, maybe it wasn't someone who was well-trained and well-practiced in psionics. It could just be a wizard who sacrificed magic and gained access, or stole access, to this other arcane weave, this other untapped field of magic. This untapped field of magic that is forever unchanging. But, it sure maps similar to the Arcane Weave. It sure feels similar. We can work with this, right? But they're changing things, they're tweaking things, they're manifesting things that they don't fully understand, and that allows for psionic interference. That allows for mind flayers to exist. And once mind flayers do exist, they will always exist. The easiest way to kill all mind flayers is to stop anyone from ever accessing the psionic manifest the first time. If you cannot access it, if you cannot find it, they will never exist. That's where my version of Githyanki come from. They're tracking anyone who is using the psionic manifest. Because, once again, if no one ever touches it, the Mind Flayers' self-determining paradox crumbles completely. They no longer exist in the present, proliferate themselves into the future. And because they're no longer in the future, they are not imprinting upon the psionic manifest to be able to be created in the past. The Gith will always fail. That's the sad part of their story. The Mind Flayers will always exist, but they can cut their heads off at every opportunity. And that is their story. So yeah, the Order of Thaumaturgy. You're stealing magic from unknown sources. I also just made a note here. There's a cool interplay here where a GM could theoretically grant a milestone level up to everyone else but a Thaumaturgy wizard, because they haven't collected the sacrificial soul necessary to gain the level up. That's not going to be codified into, the core text of the class, but I do have a section for each of these that is, hey, here's some cool narrative things that you can do with this class, some questions that you can ask to better flesh out, identify niches and cool things about your character. It's for both GMs and players. It'll probably be like a page or two in the core rules. I'm still working out a lot of that, but it's all for making your characters much more interesting. Something that, yeah. So third level here, we have our Paragon talent. This is just your feats. There we go. Fourth level, Arcane Font. Fourth level wizard feature here. A wizard's work is never done. Even once a spell is imprinted upon the pages of their spellbook, wizards are known to tinker with the arcane sigils and modify the effects of spells they have mastery over, imbuing their spells with different effects, or a signature flair upon casting. This arcane dabbling is represented by a wizard's arcane fonts. Arcane fonts allow a wizard to subtly alter and customize a spell's effects when cast. As a wizard, you gain a number of arcane fonts equal to your spellcraft modifier, minimum of 1. Once expended, an arcane font is unavailable to you until you rest. Whenever you complete a long rest, you regain 1 expended arcane font. You regain all expended arcane fonts when you complete an extended rest. This is kind of a heroic resource, but it's not quite. While you are adjacent to an ally casting a spell, you can cast the Manipulate Arcanum cantrip as a reaction to apply one of your arcane font effects to their spell. The Manipulate Arcanum cantrip does not count towards the number of cantrips you know, as shown in the cantrips known column of the wizard table. You just get a free cantrip at 4th level. It's specifically so that you can manipulate another person's spells. So let's say you and your anointed are, hunkering down behind a small wall, and the anointed is interested in casting an Eldritch Blast, and you're not 100% sure how far away the others are on the field, the targets who are, sniping at you with their bows, their crossbows. Well, your wizard can be like, okay, you're going to go ahead and cast your Eldritch Blast. I'm going to manipulate Arcanum, and I am going to add on bonus distance. So, manipulate Arcanum. That was a little bit of a spoiler there. Manipulate Arcanum. It's a transmutation cantrip. As your ally weaves a word of magic from Vine and Prayer, you guide their hands to shape and strengthen the magic. It requires an arcane font. It's a reaction spell. Target one creature friendly to you. Implement somatic. So you don't have to speak anything. You requires no material components. You just make some finger gestures. Range of 5 feet. They're right next to you. Trigger spellcraft. We're gonna see this again. The target creature casts a spell with verbal, somatic, or material components. So long as there's one of them, you can cast this. You expend one arcane font and apply one of the arcane font effects to the spell being cast. When you cast a spell, you can expend one use of your arcane font to alter the spell in one of the following ways. You gain additional arcane font options at 7th level. When you have no arcane fonts remaining, you can spend 1 point of willpower to use this ability again. This is a little bit sorcerer metamagic-y as well. So, what are your arcane font options? You have Bend the Weave. When you cast a spell that has a range of 5 feet or greater, you can expend one arcane font to double the range of the spell to a minimum of 30 feet. To a minimum of 30 feet, what does that mean? It means if you're casting a spell that has a range of 5 feet, doubling that would be 10 feet, but it just automatically jumps to 30. If you're doubling something that has a distance of 10 feet, doubling that would be 20, it jumps to 30. So minimum of 30 feet distance. But if you're casting something that's, 100 feet, it now reaches 200 feet. It doubles your distance. You bend the weave to make your spell go further. So what I was saying with the Manipulate Arcanum storytelling bit there, you spend your arcane font, you tweak the Eldritch Blast there, and the Anointed immediately throws a bunch of bolts, and you hit all sorts of these different enemies that are, I believe it would be 120 feet away from you. Don't quote me on that. I forget exactly how far Eldritch Blast goes. Your other option here is called Shape the Fire. Oop, that means a space there. When you can cast a spell that affects several creatures in an area, you can protect some of the creatures from the spell's full effects. This is pretty similar to Careful Spell as a metamagic option. I believe Careful Spell will fully negate the effects to the creatures that are in the area that you designate. This one reduces the spell effect, so it's not quite the same, but it is helpful. When you cast this spell, choose a number of creatures in the area up to your spellcraft modifier. Creatures chosen by you in this manner experience the effects of the spell's Tier 1 result, instead of the result rolled when casting the spell. So, you have a bunch of creatures in the area here, you roll really high, hey, it's a Tier 4 result, I'm going to go ahead and throw an arcane font on there, so all of my allies who are in the same space there, they only experience the Tier 1 result of the fireball, versus the enemies who get the full Tier 4. It's your way of reducing damage output on your allies. It's a way to negate friendly fire. Now this is where I think I might lose people. But I don't particularly find this as an emergent property of fun game. I cast Counterspell. It's really fun as a player, don't get me wrong. Who doesn't like shouting Counterspell and then seeing your GM's face frustrated as Oh, you counterspelled his chain lightning. I was gonna destroy half of your party. Counterspell's fun as a player, but then you have issues where you counterspell, your GM counterspells, like you get into the wizard wars, and it becomes less fun. It does. And so on one hand, there's the option of, does this game even have a counterspell option? I don't know. What would happen if we just left it out? Well, I feel like you are losing something. You are losing one of the wizard's core controller features. When an enemy casts a spell, I recognize it. No, you do not cast this spell. And then you go about taking your turn. It's classic controller stuff. It's, if you play Magic the Gathering, it's blue mana. You see 2 untapped blue manas, they're holding a counterspell to see what you do. And that is something that wizards should have. It is. But we want to, make it fun for both the GM, for the player, for everyone at the table. And one of the things I've noticed is 5e gives counterspell to a lot of people. And so one of the first changes I have to counterspell is you get it as a wizard feature, which means it's inherently class locked to wizard. Your speakers do not get counterspell. And on one hand, it kind of hurts me because that would mean that if you're familiar with Vox Machina, Scanlan Shorthalt does not exist in this game. At least as far as the final counterspell against Vecna. Or what level do you cast it at? I cast it at 9. That does not exist in this game. It does, because your wizard can cast counterspell, but a bard does not. A speaker does not. It kind of hurts me, but I think the archetypes and the fantasies need room to breathe and to be unique. And so counterspell lives on the wizard, and the wizard alone. The wizard on their own. Here, I'll just read it. You have learned to recognize the influence of the arcane all around you. You know the patterns and sigils of most spell types and how to create them. You've also seen magics that have failed or broken in catastrophic ways. Counterspell is the result of learning magic, of failing at magic. It's the result, it's what you get, it's the blood, sweat, and tears that went into preparing spells. It's the gold spent. It's all of that. You've learned how magic fails. And now you can learn how to break your opponent's spells. It's such a wizard thing. It is core, it is fundamentally wizard. So here, you have learned to harness this breaking and unweaving of magic to thwart your enemies. You learn the spell Counterspell. You always have this spell prepared, and it does not count against the number of spells you can prepare. You always know Counterspell. You don't have to prepare it each day. It is just a fundamental part of your character. It is a 4th level feature. You're getting this roughly halfway through your character's progression. You've spent enough gold and time to learn how magics fail, and now you can cause other people's magic to fail. So, before I get into how Counterspell works, I'm going to read the box here on countering spells with Counterspell. The effects of your Counterspell affect all magics that harness the arcane weave. This includes, but is not limited to, an anointed's divine spellcraft, a ranger's primal spellcraft, and the spell is cast by speakers. Sorceress Investitures are sorcerer class, and psionic actions, the future cognizant, do not manipulate the arcane weave when their effects are manifested, and are unable to be affected by the counterspell spell. So there we go. A slight nerf there. Sorcerers can't be counterspelled. Scions can't be counterspelled. Similarly, many foes have access to spells and spell effects, many of which can be countered with counterspell. Magically effused creatures, such as, and once again, this is a quote here I made a note of, make sure these examples match the stats and abilities in the creature codex, but such as dryads, who live near sites of planar conjunction, and Balors, who fight for the cities of hell, have the option to use spell-like effects in their attacks. These effects are noted in their stat blocks as innate spellcraft. As innate spells are manifested by a creature naturally, without the use of verbal, somatic, or material components, these magical effects cannot be negated with counterspell. Foes who have developed magical abilities through study, devotion, or cosmic alignment in similar fashion to player characters will have spellcraft abilities denoted as trained spellcraft on their stat blocks. These effects require, in some capacity, verbal, somatic, or material components, and are subject to being countered by counterspell. So, let's go ahead and read through this spell. Counterspell. 3rd level, Abjuration. You're spending a 3rd level slot to cast this spell. It is an Abjuration spell. It's just not on Arcane, Divine, or Primal spell lists. Still counts as an Arcane spell just because it's a wizard spell. That's in the tags, but it's really neither here nor there. Resource. 3rd level spell slot. Casting time, reaction. Target, 1 creature. Implement, verbal, somatic, range 30 feet. What this does mean is, you can cast counterspell, and then you can bend the weave and hit someone at 60 feet away. And once again, arcane fonts only able because we cut back a bit on spells. It gave us more of a budget to give them more features, to give wizards more features. And so, by cutting back on our spells, we were able to give the wizard more features, which we were able to then make spells better, including counterspell. It's all a delicate dance of balance. Counterspell. You reach into the arcane weave and disrupt the patterns and sigils of an enemy's spell. Trigger. Spellcraft. Very simple. It's the exact same line as Manipulate Arcana. The target creature casts a spell with verbal, somatic, or material components. So if your spell is like a subtle spell that you can learn, or do things as like a sorcerer, or I know there are ways to get subtle spell elsewhere, probably through talents and features like that. The target creature casts a spell with verbal, somatic, or material components. Any of those, if it's a verbal spell exclusively, you can counterspell it. If it's a somatic spell exclusively, you can counter it. If it's a material spell exclusively, you can counter this. I had a big discussion with our current wizard in the Strixhaven Adventuring Academy game about material-only spellcasting the other day. And I do think that has a place in this game, but it currently does not exist. But in that case, it is counterspellable. I believe the notion being the GM saying this character casts a spell means that the NPC, the villain, the opponent, does something that your character would recognize as going to cast a spell. So, the effects of the spell. You attempt to negate the effects of a creature's spellcraft. You roll your dice. And the result is, counterspell. On a 9 and lower, you fail. The target creature's spell is unaffected. On a 10 through 18, the effect of the target's creature's spell is reduced by 1d4 tiers to a minimum of the spell's tier 1 result. If the spell cast by the target is not tiered or cannot be reduced in tier, the spell is unaffected. So if they rolled a 19 through a 27 here, you roll a d4, that can reduce it by 1, be reduced by 2, it will be reduced to a minimum of 9 and lower. If there isn't a dice roll table here, it does not. The spell is unaffected. It goes through as if you had just completely outright failed the check. On a 19 through a 27, so this is going to be kind of where we expect players to hit. This is your standard I hit range. The effect of the target creature's spell is reduced to the spell's tier 1 result. Full stop, it's the minimum effect, no matter what. If the spell cast is not tiered and cannot be reduced in tier, the effect of the spell is completely negated. So it's either the minimum result or no spell at all, which is most of what a counterspell is. And then finally, if you get your highest result, the effect of the target spell is negated. Now, before we get into the heightened abilities here, counterspell can still be countered. Like, you can counterspell a counterspell, it's just two wizards going at it. If you fight a lich, the lich might try and counterspell a counterspell. So, let's say hypothetically, the lich casts Chain Lightning. Your wizard casts Counterspell. They roll a 24. The effect of the Chain Lightning is reduced to the spell's tier 1 result, regardless of what the lich rolled for it. Then the lich casts Counterspell on your Counterspell, and they roll a 10 through an 18. Something in that range. So the effect of your counterspell is reduced 1d4 tiers to a minimum of the tier 1 result. The lich rolls a 1, so that means your roll of, I believe it was a 24, but your tier 3 result is reduced to a 10 to an 18. So instead of having the lich's Chain Lightning be reduced to its tier 1 result, you now roll a d4 and reduce the Chain Lightning by that many tiers. So let's say it was a tier 4 result. What would have become a tier 1 result is now a tier... Pick up your die, you roll it, you reduce by 2, so it's a tier 2 result instead of tier 4. So that is kind of how a wizard can work with counterspell. Now, we can heighten the spell. We can force our hand. Counterspell is going to be good at 3rd level no matter what. But when you cast this spell as a 4th level spell or higher, we introduce skill floors. You increase the tier result of your spellcraft roll by 1 for each level above 3rd to a maximum of tier 4. So a 4th level spell completely means your 9 and lower does not happen. You miss your roll. Your lowest roll that you can get is a 10 through 18 result. You score the absolute highest. Cool. You didn't need to cast it at its higher level then, but it's a safety net. It's an assurance. What this also does is if you counterspell it, since it's basically just increasing, it's not saying you can't roll that as a failure. So you can still be pushed back by a counterspell, countering your counterspell, but it means your initial counterspell can't fail or is pushed up a tier. If you cast this spell as a 5th level spell, you cannot roll below an 18. It means you're automatically locked in to a tier 3 result. That is a 19 through a 27. It's going to either reduce the target spell to a tier 1 or completely eliminate the spell. And then if you push it to 6th level, we have a special clause there, but just using our first heightened here, a 6th level counterspell is an automatic tier 4 result. You win. Now, you can do this with like a 5th level spell slot. You push yourself to this level here, and then you have advantage tier 2. Maybe you have another spellcaster, giving you the help action, and you have a circumstantial bonus, or you're spending like inspiration or something like that to give yourself more levels of advantage. That will push you up to a tier as well. And so you can do this with a 5th level spell. It's still high. It's still a high risk. But it's a guaranteed success. And so that's a good way of doing high level counter spells if you have ways to give yourself advantage to expend your 5th level spell slots. Because your 5th level spell slots come back. Your 6th level spell slots do not. And this was something that I found emergent in the design. This wasn't something that was intended as it was, as you would say it. Like, I was not intending for it to be, okay, the wizard wants a guaranteed success on his counterspell. He casts it at 6th level. It's gonna automatically win. And then I realized, kind of going through the notes there, the wizard cast it at 6th level. They cannot cast that 6th level spell slot for the rest of the adventure. So they are formally losing something of themselves for the rest of the adventure to counteract this one spell. That is something that is emergent in the mechanics and is beautifully dramatic. And so if you want this guaranteed success that doesn't come from having your allies helping you, you have to start sacrificing your higher level spell slots. And all of a sudden, Scanlan was back on the table. All of a sudden, what level do you cast it at? You're too far away from your allies, they can't help you. Vecna is going to teleport away. You've been casting counterspells so many times and getting so lucky. What level do you cast it at? The campaign's wrapping up. 9. I cast my highest level counterspell. Well, yeah, it's gonna work. You win the day. It works. It brings back this sort of poetry to counterspell. Counterspell doesn't need to be. It automatically works at a spell of X, Y, and Z lower. So long as if you're casting it at a higher level, there is a cost to it. And if you're casting it at 6th level, far away from your friends who can't help you, you lose that spell slot for the rest of the adventure. You have to go take some time, take some downtime, recover it. And what? If your maximum level, let's go ahead and scroll back up there. Jesus, that's a lot of table. If your maximum level here, what, you've got 2 6th level spell slots, 2 7th level spell slots, 1 8th, 1 9th. You can cast a 6th level spell, or you can cast a max level counterspell 6 times per adventure. And those aren't coming back until you take a longer rest. You have to choose what spells you cast. You can be holding on to a wish, but if Vecna is going to teleport away from you, is it worth it? The poignancy and the beauty of counterspell, it still exists. And I love that. It's my own mechanics. It's a die roll based system. It's a chart system. It's something that I was inherently worried was going to be lost when I brought the power roll into it. When I learned about the power roll for draw steel, I was like, okay, I want to see how this works. But how does counterspell work? Because counterspell is a binary effect and it works or it doesn't. And so this was the thing that took me so long to figure out, because I wanted something like Sam Riegel casting counterspell at 9th level to be in this game. I wanted that poignancy, I wanted that drama, I wanted that sadness that was inherently drawn from how the game works, from the game design, from its own inherent limitations. And I found it. It was a little bit by accident, but when a game works well, sometimes things just slot into place. Sometimes you don't need to realize it's working. You realize it a little after the fact. It's one of the most beautiful things I've experienced working in game design, is when it just works. When the systems that you have built up justify each other and the same fantasy, and it just plays together perfectly. It's such a good point. It's resonant. It's powerful. It makes me think that I'm doing something right. And I mean, sure, you can get that easier by working together with your team. At 5th level, it won't cost you a spell slot. And that's also similarly powerful. Let's say we have our Scanlan. He works with his team. They counterspell Vecna's teleport. And then they save Vax. It becomes a team effort. And I love that. It's storytelling, but it's playing with game mechanics in a way that genuinely affects the heart of the narrative. And so being able to preserve Sam's 9th level counterspell in the game makes me feel good. Makes me feel like I did the right thing. But like, counterspell is completely different, so like, it's still mine. It's just that sort of thing can happen. So let's read the heightened level here for 6th level and higher. A counterspell cast at 6th level, once again, your spell slot is gone, is known as a dread counterspell, as tier 4 is its minimum tier result. Creatures with the frightened condition cannot cast reaction spells in response to a dread counterspell. So I know there are some creatures out there that are going to be resistant or immune to the frightened condition, probably including liches. But like, let's say you have a magical sort of creature that doesn't have immunity or resistance to the frightened condition. Stick your Berserker on them, keep them afraid, and then just keep counterspelling. They can't do anything about it. It adds to teammate, to teamwork. Just a fun little bit there. So, 7th level here, we have Greater Arcane Font. It's not written, but it's more and more powerful Arcane Font options. You just learn them all. The ones that I said here, it would probably be Quicken Spell, Transmuted Spell, and Seeking Spell. Reducing the spell's cost time in terms of action economy, changing the damage type on the fly, and being able to reroll the effects of the spell, and deferring to the result of a higher roll. That sort of thing. You just standard, I affect the magic, we're all good. Then Spell Mastery and Signature Spell. Spell Mastery coming online at 7th level, Signature Spell coming online at 10th. look back to the SRD here, they're going to be pretty similar to it. I know I've zoomed in on casting focus, but we showed it earlier. These are going to be fundamentally similar features here. So spell mastery. You have achieved such mastery over certain spells that you can cast them at will. Choose a first level spell and a second level spell that are within your spellbook. You always have these spells prepared. They do not count against the number of spells you can prepare, and you can cast those spells at their base level without expending a spell slot. If you want to cast either spell at a heightened level, you must expend a spell slot as normal. Whenever you complete an extended rest, you can exchange these mastered spells for 2 others in your spellbook. Good stuff. Just standard wizard stuff. It's almost directly from the SRD. It's just adapted slightly to this game. Signature spellcraft. Once again, mostly adapted, but it's going to have a couple small changes. You gain further mastery over the spells within your spellbook and can perform the signs of 2 potent arcane works with little effect. Choose 2 third-level spells in your spellbook as your signature spells. You always have these spells prepared. They don't count against the number of spells you can prepare, and you can cast each of them at their base level a number of times equal to your spellcraft modifier without expending a spell slot. When you do so, you can't do so again until you complete a long rest. So you basically get these spells for free, but it's spellcraft modifier times per long rest. So let's say you choose Fireball and you have a spellcraft modifier of 5. That's 5 rounds of you just casting Fireball. It's pretty good, but like you're gonna want to play with some other spells, but yeah. It's basically infinite. Not quite, but basically. If you want to cast either spell at a higher level, you have to expend a spell slot as normal. The one thing that you don't have here is when you complete an extended rest, you can change these. These spells are your signature spell. You don't get to change your signature spell. And then finally, we have something that I am going to be putting on all of the different classes here. But it was only originally in the wizard document, and it's currently only on the wizard interstitial drafting document here. And that is vestiges. Vestige of wizardry. And you're going to have vestiges for pugilists, for duelists, for berserkers, for anointed. But this is something that befalls a legendary hero. A hero who has reached 10th level. You create a magic item based on your wizard's legend that will persist in the campaign setting after the campaign ends. There'll be customizable options so you can wield your own item. So this could be your wizard's staff, your wizard's arcane focus. This could be an enchanted version of a weapon or something that your character uses throughout the campaign. And when you close up shop, when the campaign story comes to an end, I would like there to be blank pages in the treasures section here, so your GM can write down, this is the Orb of Echo the Wise, and then award that as a legendary artifact in their next campaign. You can take the legacy of a previous player character and you can give it to your new party. Maybe they have to defend this because the wizard was slain or disappeared or something, and you want to try and, find your way to a member of your old party. That's what this is. You're able to create a legacy for your characters who reach this level that most characters in the world don't. And genuinely, I'm surprised that other games don't have something like this. I was following the development cycle for MCDM's Draw Steel, and I feel like something like this fits into their modus operandi so much. It's tactical, it's heroic, it's cinematic, it's fantasy, but this is hitting on the cinematic part. This is hitting on the heroic part. your character leaves behind the bow of Achilles. What is that? It's a bow, but it's a legacy. It's a character from someone else's game. It's something special, and your characters now are going to get the opportunity to use that weapon in their adventures, to build onto its history, to build onto its legacy. And that's something that's really cool, man. So, Vestige of Wizardry. That's going to be a capstone for the wizard, but it's going to be a capstone that goes to all classes. All of them. So, yeah, your party will end up with magic items that are unique to them. And it will forever change your GM's world. I'm sorry, it's really cool. I hope you enjoy it. With that, I think this is going to be where we call the stream tonight. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. I can't wait to see your comments. I can't wait to see what you guys think of this wizard and what you think of this game. Take care, and I'll be seeing you.